Hey guys, Haito here, and today we're doing a what if Eren had the Beast Titan. So this one is going to be an actual what if instead of similar to my What If Goku's in Naruto series, where that was me writing a fanfiction and reading it. On YouTube, this is much more in the style of an actual not fanfiction, sorry, an actual what if. So I do hope you enjoy it, and let's begin. So this story mainly starts before Grisha Jaeger enters the walls. It starts when the Eldian restorationists are caught and sent to Paradise. Basically, instead of the owl having the attack titan, he simply has the beast titan. There isn't much of a difference there. And this time, instead of, destroying the boats with using like pure strength, he would have to use his claws to slash them up due to him not having that type of strength. Quickly, I want to talk about how strong a non-royal blooded beast titan would theoretically be. So there's a lot of speculation we can do here, and this fact is really, really, really important to determine the rest of the what if. So if we power scale, basically Zeke's Titan has royal blood, and as we've seen, Zeke's Beast Titan was able to completely beat Reiner and his Armored Titan easily in a fight. So since Zeke himself has royal blood, I'm assuming that makes his Beast Titan much more stronger. The only other Beast Titan that we know about is Zeke's, former master. And he was stated to be no use in battle and was only good as a researcher. But as his dreams were for research, I don't think he would ever try to unlock the Beast Titan's full potential regardless. So I don't think I can scale, let's say, Grisha or Eren's Beast Titans dependent on his factor or Zeke's, because it'd be weaker than Zeke's. I'm talking about raw off the bat without any training. So it'd be weaker than Zeke's, but it wouldn't be as weak as Zeke's masters. So what I'm thinking here, it hasn't got the strong attributes of the female and attack titans, nor does it have the impenetrable, of course, defense that the armor titan has, but specifically it does have the benefit of its sharp claws. Its main attack advantages would be due to its devastating claws. So I'd put it around mid tier. It wouldn't be the same as Zeke's, where it's more of a high tier. It's about a mid-low tier, a mid-low tier. Anyways, from there, let's continue. Gracia from there would still inherit the Titan and would enter the walls still. He would then proceed to get the founding Titan. This still goes the exact same as canon, except for in his fight, any fight he takes place in, it's very much different because he uses his claws to slash apart his opponents instead of doing what he would usually do, having a fist fight. He'd still be able to overwhelm Frida with his power, his experience. So he would still win that confrontation and would inherit the founding Titan. From there, Eren still gets the Titan because there's no reason for there to be a difference. From there, we have to skip a long way away until Eren unlocks his powers in the fight of Shiganshina. Basically, here, when he unlocks it, there's a couple of little minor changes. So basically, Eren getting eaten by the Beast Titan still happens as normal. He transforms into his Titan. But that's when the changes really start to happen. Not too much, just a little bit. When he easily just starts discarding the Titans. But, as I've said, he wouldn't be able to use his usual battle style. He would tend to use more of a slashing battle style to rip apart his opponents. And basically, for the moment, that's fine. But when he starts getting dogpiled later on, that's a bit of a problem. But I think this could be easily countered by the fact that by the time he does start getting really overwhelmed, it's specifically when the scouts have got the fuel again, meaning that they can assist the Titan, which they still do in the end, and eventually they get Eren out. Another minor change is that when they're trying to defend themselves against the, well, scouts, against that really paranoid guy, when Eren is trying to protect them from the cannons, he'd find it definitely a lot harder. He'd still be able to protect them, but this time the cannon would blow off his entire arm. I say this purely because if we look at Zeke's Titan, he's got very much pencil thin arms, and I don't think that would be very good for catching cannon fire, especially since this version of the Beast Titan is weaker. So yeah, we continue on until we've got a major change that occurs. Erwin is unable to plug Maria completely. He cannot plug Maria. He just doesn't have the strength without the power of the attack Titan. He still has the willpower and he still attacks Mikasa, but really he doesn't have enough strength to lift the boulder. And from here, this is a ginormous barreling effect. It's got a massive more butterfly effect. This is where I'm going to do a timeline split. This is where there's a couple of possible timelines. First, I'm going to go with timeline 1. I think this is the most realistic. I believe Erwin would still vote for Eren to be kept alive on the Scouts. But I think without the accomplishment of plugging up more Mario, I doubt the judge would listen at all. And I think he would go with the MP solution to gain as much information about Eren as possible, then execute him. So that's what they do. Really, by getting information, all they'd see is Eren's regenerative abilities, to be honest. I don't think there's much more they'd kind of look for, because, I don't know, possibly in this timeline, Eren could transform into a Titan, but I believe they would do this under very severe conditions where, let's say, Levi is there, and he transforms with Levi there, he's done. With someone like Hanji, also an elite, Eren's completely done. I doubt they'd only put low tier people guarding him. He'd be guarded constantly. So I doubt even if he possibly does transform into a Titan, he can escape. Now, there's 2 X factors before I end this timeline. Mikasa and Armin. What would they do? Armin and Mikasa are extremely smart and skilled in battle. Mikasa could probably destroy like half of the weaker scouts, and Armin's probably like the second, he's like the smartest alongside Erwin in the scouts. With that tag team duo, there's definitely some things they could definitely do. In this timeline, I see them not picking the scout regiment. In this timeline, it'd be their utmost goal to save Eren, especially for Mikasa. When his execution was announced originally by the judge, she probably would have almost freaked out, but with Armin, I think he could have found some way to convince her that they could still get Eren out of this. Armin would probably try to plead for Eren's release. I can imagine that, as he's much more of a non-confrontational person. But at this point, I don't think anything the words of his friends could really just do anything, to be honest. So, this is the plan that I've thought of, which I'm assuming Armin could have thought of. Anyways, what I think they would have done is in this timeline pick the MPs, the military police, since they were in the top of their class. It means they could pretty much go to any regiment they wanted. So they'd go to the MPs, and I think they'd be able to break Eren out. How they would do this is that I don't think they'd be put on watching Eren, his guard duty basically, because if they looked into his background, I doubt that they would basically put them on because they are the most likely to try and get him out. But I'm assuming that they could probably trick people into getting Eren out. But at the same time, this would be a massive struggle. But I think there's a chance by convincing Annie. Annie Leonhardt is also an MP and is also, remember this, a Titan shifter. She would have a lot of interest in trying to get Eren out so that Reiner and Bertold and her can take Eren back to Marley. Meaning that I think that Annie would be most likely to help them. Alongside this is that she's still got a high chance of being put on guard duty, as the only thing and tie she has to Eren is that they were both in the 100th Scout Cadet Corps. But I think there's a decent enough chance that they'd put her on guard duty due to her immense skills. When this would happen, she would most likely help the two break him out. And I think with Armin's brains and Mikasa and Annie's skills, there's a good chance they could get him somewhere. Specifically, they would have to go into hiding. This would be a difficult task, but I think it's doable at least. But now we need to talk about two other X factors in this timeline. Reiner and Bertold. Due to the three Titan shifters, they need Eren. So I believe Annie would be able to get Eren somewhere in the open. If she managed to do that and they managed to successfully capture him, which if they transform suddenly and just take Eren, there's a good chance they could accomplish this. But on the other hand, if they cannot accomplish that, it's due to the intervening of, let's say, the scouts or Mikasa or Armin or everybody else that are probably there, then they would probably be caught. With the combined might of the three Titan shifters, I believe there's a good chance they would be able to capture Eren in this timeline, which would then result in him being taken back to Marley. But let's back and rewind. If they do try and they do fail, then this goes down the drain basically. If Levi and the rest of the scouts are able to take them down, then they'll most likely be killed on the spot, as they pose too much of a threat to humanity, along with Eren as he gets these threats of humanity to come to the walls. That's just a little side note. But anyway, let's say they capture Eren in this timeline. They'll most likely take him back to the Marleyan ship. And from here, there's a couple possibilities. Zeke could possibly communicate with Eren to start a rumbling at this point. But there's a good chance at the same time that he won't have enough time to be able to do this. And as a result, Eren will be eaten by, let's say, Porco. There's a good chance that Porco will eat Eren in this timeline. And then, by that context, the basically Paradise would have no way of defending themselves. And if Marley did an all-out assault attack, they'd be destroyed, and that would be the end of Paradise. Especially with the power of the founding Titan on their side, they would completely decimate the rest of the world, to be honest. But if we say Zeke and Eren are able to pull off a rumbling, because at this point, I need to talk about Eren. Eren will probably be feeling very much betrayed at this point, and finding it hard to trust anyone. But at the same time, his will to live is so high that I think that if he and Zeke were able to talk to each other at any point, then there's a good chance that the rumbling has a possibility of happening. If the rumbling does take place, there's really nothing the world can do. I assume Zeke and Eren would get back to Paradise because really, what is the rest of the world gonna really do? Because remember, Eren in this time still has the Founding Titan, and Zeke himself is a Titan Shifter. But you're probably thinking, since there's no Beast Titan, which Titan Shifter could Zeke even be? That Titan would definitely be the Attack Titan. So let's say the rumbling takes place, and what? By doing this, they'll be able to activate all the Titans in the wall. And if they're able to get these Titans from Paradise to Marley in time, then I would say it is very much reasonable that Eren in this timeline could possibly survive along with Zeke. But if they're too slow and Eren still gets eaten, then I'm assuming that the rumbling would probably stop when the Founding Titan is passed on to a new user. And this is where it gets a little complicated. But there's a lot of possibilities to this one, to be honest. There's a good chance, to be honest, that in the midst of how much time they've got, it's kind of unrealistic they'd be able to make the rumbling even happen, to be honest. Everyone would probably be overwhelmed with the amount of information. So in the end, there's a good chance that Porco would probably just eat him in the end, to be honest. And from there, Paradise would be destroyed. But if they activated the rumbling, there's a good chance that Eren could possibly survive along with killing all the Titans. Because if a bunch of Colossal Titans start walking, I feel like a lot of just Titans would get trampled. But at the same time, this would have a lot of consequences for the people in the wall. Let's say, if we look at how big the wall is, if the Colossal Titans don't walk out in a certain pattern, they could probably crush and kill a lot of people. And tell me, what is anybody doing if that happens? Let's just say they're able to control the specific pattern of the way they walk out, and they get them to Marley, they get Eren out of there, and Zeke. What happens from there? I don't think Eren would go along with Zeke's euthanization plan. Even if he'd be like, yeah, sure, which I very much doubt this version of Eren would do, because this version of Eren is very much vocal about his opinions and wouldn't be willing to compromise. But let's say he did for some weird reason, he probably wouldn't still do it and just try and act like he did, really. From here, there's a lot of uncertainties. If they end up, they probably wouldn't crush the world, they'd probably just try to scare the world. Paradise probably wouldn't be bothered for a long time if they went stuck with Zeke's plan from there. Then I doubt they'd have to worry about much, because the world probably won't attack them if they do this plan every once in a while. But from there, honestly, the most likely timeline I see from timeline 1 is that Eren gets captured, taken to Marley, where Porco eats him, and Marley ends up crushing the world under their heel, along with Paradise, because I know Levi is skilled, the scouts are skilled, but they're not used to fighting human opponents. They really did struggle with that. I doubt they had enough time to attack, to first throw the first punch, nor will they have enough time to defend, as their weaponry is built mainly for Titans. So that's timeline 1. Okay, let's quickly go into timeline 2, since this video is getting fairly long. So for timeline 2, we go all the way back to the courtroom where Eren was tried. And this time we're going to say that the scouts were able to convince the people, like, in canon. Through this timeline, there's not as many changes, not nearly as many changes as there are in canon. Well, there isn't many changes. So we go through the plot. The first change is when we come to the fight between Eren and Annie. Because up to there, Eren would still discover the secret that he needs a goal in order to transform. There's no point in saying that being the Beast Titan would stop that. But there's one thing. Eren can communicate. They would learn that through the first part when he's fighting the Titans when he first transforms. But at best, he'll just be screaming, "I'll kill you all, I'll kill you all." So there's no point in doing that. That ability doesn't exactly help them, nor does it help them a bit later on when they fight against Annie. Eren still would probably decide to trust them, and which would lead to all of their deaths. He would transform, try to fight. Maybe he'd probably inflict some massive slash marks on Annie. But Annie's fighting style is a direct counter to on like the Beast Titan with the overextended arms. If Annie's able to grab one of the arms and just judo slam him, there's not much Eren can really do against an opponent like Annie, to be honest. So you still get captured by Annie, and Levi and Mikasa would have to save him. Now we're going to skip forward to when, okay, basically the second battle between Eren and Annie in the walls, when they tried to, because remember, when they were going into the walls, if they came back with no results, then Eren would probably be executed, so they needed results. This is when they're trying to get them, so basically Annie would still transform. Eren still wouldn't be able to transform due to him still seeing Annie as a potential friend. Later on he would transform, and still, I've only watched the anime, so I don't know much, but still, he would go into his rage mode. But this time, I don't think he would do as well. Still, I think he'd be able to chop off the limbs, especially of the female Titan. But eventually, I feel like he'd have to work with the scouts to be able to do anything. But, the big but here, he has the ability to communicate. So, in this timeline, I see that the scouts, people like Levi and Mikasa, along with Eren, could definitely overwhelm the female Titan. But still, she'd still go into a cocoon-like state. I mean, the arc doesn't have as many overall changes, but there is a certain level of trust and teamwork built between all of them. Okay, we keep skipping, to be honest. From here, there isn't too many differences until we get to the point where Zeke breaches the wall. At this point, Zeke would be using the Beast Titan, but he'd still be using the Attack Titan. But I don't think this would change too much, as the Attack Titan strength would more than likely help him with his strategies, as he would have the strength of the Attack Titan to chuck his boulders, chuck horses. This would lead to probably some more casualties, but I don't think it'd be enough for me to talk about it too much. But what I'm going to say, his Attack Titan would be very much deadly. He couldn't talk in this one, so he couldn't question the commander. I mean, he'd probably just take his gear and then just walk off run off, because the Titans at this point would be chasing him. But yeah, that wouldn't change all that much. When we continue onwards, till the fight between the Armored and Titan and the Beast Titan and Eren, and this is where I may see a couple of changes. Really, I just think that there's a possibility that Eren could still do as good as he did, but I don't think he could, especially since he isn't adapting Annie's style too well, so he wouldn't be able to do it as well because he doesn't have the overwhelming strength of the Attack Titan, meaning that he's a much less effective fighter here. So really, I think his best strategy would be rip off the armor plates and hope the scouts could help him, which at first they would be able to. They'd be probably overwhelming Reiner. Eren would be ripping off around his armor plates using his claws, and the scouts would coming in and would immobilize him. But when the Colossal Titan in Berthold comes down, there's not much anybody could do to help Eren at that point. They'd still capture him in canon, along with Ymir, of course. We keep continuing our scenario, and there's not too many changes. Since Eren still has the Founding Titan, when he punches Diana Fritz, the exact same thing happens. He's able to control the Titans, so There isn't a change there, nor in the Rod Reese arc, because there's no reason to. He'd still be able to carry all the bombs and stuff and shove it into his mouth and blow him up, because I doubt, even without the Attack Titan strength, I still think that's still a feasible thing a Titan shifter, any Titan shifter, could probably do. So you still do that. The Rod Rice arc still goes the exact same. But then let's get into one big arc. The arc where Zeke, Bryna, and Berthold invade Paradise together this time now. At the start, there isn't too much of that changes, but I want to go straight to the battle between Levi and the Attack Titan of Zeke Yeager. Zeke still has the exact same mental figure, so he still uses baseball style of attack, even with the Attack Titan. But I think Levi's going to struggle a bit more, purely because the Attack Titan has a lot more mobility and strength. But I'm still going to give this fight to Levi. Levi's just of such a level that I don't think you could give Zeke a Pacific Titan that would be able to save him. Even though I think Levi would struggle more. He's fought Titans like the female Titan with ease, and the female Titan and the Attack Titan are at least similarly. They have very much a similar appearance. So I want to say they have very similar attributes. Meaning Levi would still be able to take out Zeke completely, and then Pete would have to rescue him. In the town of basically Bryna and Berthold against the scouts, such as like Eren, Armin, and Mikasa, I don't think there'd be much of a difference. They'll still try to be baiting out Reiner. They'd still probably be able to take out Reiner with the Thunder Spears. Eren still wouldn't be able to fight the Colossal Titan. There's nothing to say, to be honest. But we could actually, there is a bit to say, to be honest. With his cutting power, I think that if Eren's able to sneak behind the Colossal Titan, that he could do some significant damage to, let's say, the legs, which would temporarily immobilize him. This is where we see some bigger changes. If the scouts are able to get in closer while Eren's attacking, then the Colossal Titan's finished. But we have to take into account his ability to emit steam, which would blow them back, to be honest. But with the Colossal Titan immobilized and Eren going in to give him bits of damage here and there, there's a good chance that he's going to really struggle. And at this point, this is where things are going to change. Remember, every time he uses that smoke ability, it makes him weaker. So if the scouts do this on a continual basis, they might be able to get to a point where he's too weak to use it, and they're able to take him down. I feel like this is a very much possibility that they're able to accomplish this. But this time without any casualties. And if we look at, let's say, okay, let's remember Ryan in this part, he's still captured. There's nothing to say much about him. He'd still get rescued by Peak and Zeke again, but this time, this is where a massive difference happens. This time, Flock returns with what's his name, Erwin, and basically what Levi will do is he'll give the serum to Erwin in this timeline, which means Erwin in this timeline will then proceed to eat the what's his name with Berthold. He'll then eat Berthold, giving him the powers of the Colossal Titan. This is where we see a lot of changes. Honestly, quickly, I want to talk about this one what if done by another YouTuber. That YouTuber's name is Turtle Quirk. He's got a really good series about what if Erwin survived. And I think that kind of just summarizes my thoughts perfectly on this, because honestly, I think he definitely would build relations with the other countries once learning through Eren's dreams, since he still would have them, about Paradise and everything else. And with the other countries, I think they would launch an attack on Mali. With the combined strength of the Beast Founder, the Colossal, and all the other countries that are decked up with all the gear of the Scouts, combined with their own gear, Mali's just done. Mali's done. From here, I don't think I can talk about much, because the way the times would be split is that they'd either all be killed, at least the Titans on the Marleyan side, or they'd all be eaten by Eldians. This could possibly cause some concerns between the countries, but from here I can't exactly say much other than talking about Zeke in this timeline and the rumbling. Possibly there's a possibility that when they invade, they'd still capture Zeke to talk to him about his plan. But I see that there's a good chance that would still just feed him to somebody, purely because that basically there's no point, because now they've got the trust of the other countries. There's no point in implying that strategy, which is the most likely event, meaning that they'd probably just feed Zeke to some random. And from there, there's not much else I can say. There'd probably be continuing wars where LD would probably be like the substitute for Marley. By that I mean they'd probably be like the big shots. They'd probably get attacked a lot and they'd fight the other countries. And that's timeline 2. Well, actually, I hope you enjoyed this one. This one was not a fanfiction script. This wasn't even scripted. This was like my own thoughts, to be honest. Just like me thought dumping all my thoughts about the topic, because I didn't think this was big enough for me to make its own fanfiction or even anything. Honestly, I condensed it into its own one part because I didn't think it was necessary to make it into multiple. I could easily make it into like 3-parter, to be honest, but I prefer just to keep it as it is and its size duration. Anyways, see ya. Bye.